Hello, manifestors. This is a video that was promised and a video that was asked of me for a very, very long time. 3 years ago, I made a video about how I manifested my SP. And a little while later, I made another video about what happens on the other side of the curtain, right? Meaning on the side of the SP. But those videos are old. They were, of course, off camera because I've been on camera just recently, and the sound was pretty bad. So I've been wanting to do this video again for a little while, but I thought that it is better to do it now that I am on camera. So how did I manifest my SP? The first thing I want to say, guys, it's that please, please, please do not compare yourself with other people. Do not compare your story with other stories in a negative way. This is the reason why I am not crazy about success stories, because some people are going to take that success story and compare that story to their situation and think and say and believe and assume that their situation is different and more difficult somehow. Do not do that. Please do not do that. Okay? I have a client recently. She said that according to the stories that she's read or watched on some YouTube videos, they were either hate or love type feeling from the SP, and love and hate are both good, are both okay to manifest an SP. But in her case, it was neither. It was more of an indifference, no hate and no love. Dear friends, you don't know how many occurrences when the SP is neither hating or loving you, but indeed more like indifferent. So please don't go on reading and hearing stories where, first of all, it's your assumption. You assume that in that case, there was some love or hate, and that's good. It has to be love or hate because it means something. But if it's indifference, I can't manifest my SP. If you do that, you're not helping yourself. Number one, if there is love or hate, it's the manifestation of the person concerned. If there is indifference, it's your own manifestation. Nothing just happens. It's all manifested. So whether it's love, hate, or indifference, number one, look at yourself. You are manifesting that from your SP, number one. And number two, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your SP doesn't have free will. I don't have free will. You don't have free will. The free will stops where the state starts, as Neville said, meaning that in your world, your SP, whether he wants it or not, she wants it or not, will always act according to what you believe about yourself, about relationship in general, about your concept of yourself in that particular relationship. Okay? So now that this is said, let's move into my SP success story, and you'll see what you should and shouldn't do if you are manifesting an SP. So in my case, I think that my story can be helpful for both people who are manifesting a new person and a specific person. Because in my case, it was kind of both. First, he was a new person, but then he became a specific person. So number one, my SP showed up in my inbox. And for those who believe that they have to be on dating sites or anywhere, as a matter of fact, to meet the person that would be the perfect match with them, you are wrong. Back then, I was living in the middle of nowhere. I had maybe 5 couples as friends, meaning they were all married already, and I was not going out anywhere. And I was on no dating site, which I truly hate. Frankly, dating sites are not for me, right? They're just a no-no for me. But back then, I had a YouTube channel where I showed my face like I am now, but a YouTube channel that has nothing to do with manifesting, nothing to do with dating, nothing to do with relationship, nothing to do with any of that. I had an activism channel back then due to the fact that I left a few years before. I had left a religious cult. It so happened that my SP found my channel and one day decided to email me to thank me for my work and how my videos apparently was helping him. Okay? So he sent me an email, did not expect a reply, but I did. I replied. He was surprised that I even replied. He replied again, and I replied again, and he replied again, and I replied again. So we exchanged maybe half a dozen emails, and eventually he asked me if we could speak on the phone. By then, I knew that he was married and that he had a son. So I said, sure, why not? I didn't care if we did or if we didn't. So anyhow, we decided on a date to speak on the phone, right? When that date and time came, I was actually with a client and I went a little bit over my hour with that client, and it was time for me to call him. I was supposed to call him. So interestingly, I always smile when I hear and see people struggling to manifest a text, for example. Because that day, because I was a little late and he was waiting for my call, he was already texting me because I was late. When I finished with my client, I shoot him a quick text saying, I'm calling you now, and I called him. We spoke for about an hour. Interestingly, something happened, right? I guess on both sides, because when we hung up from that call, he checked me out on Google. I checked him out on Google, except that the picture that I found was not something I liked at all. I didn't like the picture. And I remember feeling disappointed that I didn't like the picture. And I was like, why are you disappointed? You know, like, why? Why would you be disappointed that the guy, which voice sounded so good, you didn't like the face when you saw the picture? There was no reason for me to be disappointed because I knew he was married. So why was I disappointed? But I was, right? I was disappointed. As for him, he checked me out as well. I didn't know. He didn't know I checked him out. I didn't know he checked me out. We talked about it later, of course. So we exchanged more emails after that. And at some point, he said, you know, if you want, instead of sending you emails, well, you have to sit and read my emails. And by the way, the emails were about the content of what I was discussing on my channel. So anyhow, like I just said, he said, if you don't want to sit and read my own long emails, I could send you audios, recordings instead, with contents that you can use for your videos. So I said, yes, why not? So this was by the end of June. And by the end of July, I was on vacation. I was in Greece. And on the 21st and the 27th of July, he sent me 2 recordings. When I was listening to the second recording, the one, especially the one on the 27th of July, it was in the middle of the afternoon. I listened to that recording and I said, this is the man that is going to be in a relationship with me, or this is the man I'm going to be in a relationship with. It was a strong decision and assumption. I did not do any sats. I did not affirm anything specific that I can remember. I just felt that it was a strong assumption. I just decided, I assumed and decided, this is the man I'm going to be in a relationship with. And I felt what Neville described as that euphoria feeling, which is a feeling of extreme knowing and contentment and even excitation. I was very excited, so much so that I put some loud music into my ears and started dancing on my own in the middle of the living room of the Airbnb I was in Greece. Afterwards, towards evening, I needed to move. I needed to walk. So I walked to the beach and walked along the beach. And as I was walking, I remember thinking, really wanting to contact my best friend in Texas and tell her, hey, you know what? I've just met the man of my life. But right away, I came to my senses and said, no, I'm not going to do this, because if I do, she's going to start to ask me questions to which I would not be able to answer. And one question being, oh, by the way, he doesn't know, no way. She would have said, you're completely crazy, you're completely nuts. So I said, shut up. And this is why Neville said, when you have a desire, especially if it's the type of desire that's unbelievable for those who don't believe in this law, or don't believe that we can be and have anything we want, don't believe about anything, don't tell them. Keep it to yourself. And actually, scriptures talk about that, right? The Bible, which is the textbook of the law, once we know what this book is really all about, right, talks about that. It says to go in your chamber or go in your room and keep it to yourself. Keep your desire to yourself. That's what I did. So once that happened, then I calmed down, I quieted down, but it didn't take long. That's what the ego does, right? It didn't take long for me to start wondering how, where, and when, right? How we are going to ever meet, when, and how is it going to be possible? So when I started noticing what I was doing with my mind, questioning the how and the where and the when, I said, okay, stop it, quiet down. And I wrote down, I don't remember exactly now, it's been 5.5 years, but I wrote down 3 or 4 sentences speaking from him, right? So the sentences that I wrote was something he would have said to me when we were already in a relationship. But it doesn't mean that the next day and the day after that and the day after that, I had no doubt at all. I did. I had doubts here and there. That's why I told you, especially in few of my recent videos, that you can have doubts and manifest your desire. Little doubts are not what is going to prevent you from manifesting your SP. What is going to prevent you from manifesting your SP is when you really get overwhelmed with a strong opposite feeling and you entertain that feeling over and over. That's going to delay your manifestation quite a bit, for sure. But having little doubts here and there, and when you notice them, do your best to drop them, to let them go, to just realize that they're just stupid thoughts anyway that you don't need to be attached to, little doubts won't prevent you from manifesting your SP or anything else you want to manifest. So eventually, I left Greece and I flew to England. And by the time I arrived in England, when you go from Greece to England, if you know those two places, which I love them both, but they are very, very different indeed in feeling, in colors, in everything. So my mood tend to be better, right? I'm in a better mood when it's sunny. That's my nature. So me going from the heat and the sun of Greece to the not so heat and grayness of London, I started to feel a little bit down. My mood went down a little bit. So I started thinking a whole lot about my SP. But I didn't want to do that either. So again, if you think that you have to think about the SP all the time to manifest them, you're wrong. In that particular case, I was not amused at all to think too much about him. I said, oh, I don't want that. Please, no. I could feel it was not feeling good because the feeling was thinking about him not as we were together, but starting to think about him as I'm missing him, and I didn't want that. Okay? So what I did is watch 10 seasons of an American series that I had missed when I was in America. And I found it on Amazon Prime in the house that I was in, where I was taking care of someone's dog. All I had to do all day was basically walking that little dog 3 times a day and pretty much nothing else to do. So I had to occupy my mind seriously so I could stop thinking so much about my SP. And I thought, oh, yes, plunging my mind into other people's stories and dramas is going to occupy me. So I'm going to detach from my own SP because it is done. I don't need to think about him anymore. It's done. Let me think about something else so I don't develop that neediness and that attachment. So you know what? I watched that stupid series anywhere from 7 to 9 hours a day, from morning to evening, pretty much. And guess what? It did the job. I completely stopped to think so much about my SP. Guess what happened 2 weeks later? So 2 weeks later, I received an email saying happy birthday, except that it wasn't my birthday. It wasn't far from it, but it was 4 days prior to my birthday. It was a happy birthday from my SP. So I said, thank you, but it is not my birthday yet. And he said, yeah, I know, but blah, blah, blah. I may be busy on the day of your birthday. So I thought, better to wish her a happy birthday now that I know I can do it. But it wasn't true. It's just what he said, because the truth, he told me afterwards, the truth was that he couldn't wait to find an excuse to reach out to me. So 4 days before my birthday was a pretty good excuse enough to reach out to me. And interestingly, there was that little logo on that happy birthday message that was pretty suggestive, if you ask me. But anyhow, the thing is, after I replied, then he sent me another email just a few minutes to an hour later. I don't remember, it's been a while. But that same afternoon, pretty soon after I sent him a thank you for my birthday, asking me if by any chance I was going by his city after my vacation, if we could have lunch together. And of course, I said yes, because I knew I could see very clearly that my SP was coming. And by the end of August, before I went back home, he was on vacation in Italy. And interestingly, so this is about 10 days after I had my strong assumption, my strong desire and assumption that my SP was mine, that he had a dream. And in his dream, I had pretty much replaced his wife, because I was in the bungalow he was in, except that on his bed, it was me. And in his dream, I got up, I moved towards the sink, and he got up right after me and moved towards the sink as well. And I put my head on his shoulder as he was approaching me and put his arms around my waist. That dream really, while it was very short, was very vivid for him. It was a very vivid dream that didn't leave him for a long time. So much so that the whole day following that dream, all he could think about was me. And at the same time, thinking he was crazy, because he was like, you don't even know this woman. She doesn't even know you. What the freak are you thinking about? So when you guys are asking me, what happens on the other side of the curtain? What happens in the world of the SP? Well, at the moment, you don't know it. So don't ask me. I don't know either what happens in your case. I didn't know in my own case. But I can tell you that, yes, something does happen. Things are happening all the time. And this is why it's super important that you watch your thoughts and feelings and assumptions and belief, all of that, your imaginal world. It's very important that you watch that, because what happens on the other side of the curtain, on the side of the SP, will depend on what you are doing inside. In my case, remember, I wasn't attached. And when I started to think too much about him, I detached. I occupied myself, my mind, watching a stupid TV show, whatever it takes. But I refuse to dwell on questioning and how it's going to happen and where is it going to happen and blah, 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 blah. I stopped doing that. As soon as it started, I stopped it. But a lot of you, what you're doing is continuing in the, not only the negative feeling and thinking, but the overwhelming ego mind, monkey mind questioning that is really taking you out of the state of the wish fulfilled and more in a question mode, doubting mode, wondering mode. And soon enough, it's a complete opposite state that you fall in, where you have completely forgotten that it was done, but you reverted, you went back into a state where it isn't done at all anymore. Because this video is already too long, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to make a part 2 of this video about my SP success story. Thank you for watching. If you are new here, please subscribe, like, and comment. Ask me questions, whatever you want to do. I'll answer your questions if they make sense. And thank you for watching, and come back for part 2.